My name is Cindy Wicker. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve on your board of trustees. I am a short white woman with blue and purple hair and a teal white floral dress. Wearing a white teal floral dress, sorry. As part of our services here at First UU, our speakers provide brief visual descriptions of ourselves to increase our inclusivity and welcome for people with visual impairments, and for anyone listening online instead of watching, welcome. If this is your first time here, we have a first-time visitor gift at the greeters table, and one of our beloved volunteers will be available in Beach Hall to share our Getting to Know UU information. You can use the QR code on the screen to access a digital version of our order of service, way up there, find our donation page, and sign in to let us know you are here. Whether you are a first-timer or an old friend, we invite you to come chat with us after the service to learn more about who we are and what we believe here at First UU. Please find me or another member of the board in Beach Hall after the service. So I'd like to ask everyone to please take a moment to silence your phones. Let me silence my phone. Hold on. See, I figure if I do it with you guys, then nobody is, okay, phone silenced, okay. We have a few announcements this morning. In lieu of a board meeting in July, Deborah Boyd will lead a financial orientation meeting at 7 p.m. on July 24th. This meeting will be a deep dive into the details about the structure of our finances and the fiduciary governance obligations of our Board of Trustees. While it is geared towards new board members, anyone who is curious about our church finances is welcome to attend in person or online. The main church offices are closed this week, while most of our staff are at Cersei. If you need any assistance, please contact Brian or call the office and leave a message. Brian and Teresa will be here checking voicemails and responding as needed. Sorry, let me redo that sentence. Brian and Teresa will be checking voicemails and responding as needed. We invite you to rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 86 in the Gray Hymnal, Blessed Spirit of My Life. You can find the words in your hymnal or on the screen above.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity, grant me your serenity. Fill me with a vision, in a mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts are restlessly, let peace find a home. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed, as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, clear the source of my intuition. When life is done for me, let love be my legacy. There we go. Good morning. My name is the Reverend Dana Reynolds. I'm a retired Unitarian Universalist minister. I am a tall man, a little over 6 feet tall, with what's left of it is my hair is salt and pepper, black and white, and I lose a little bit every day. I am wearing a light blue shirt, light beige pants. It is summer after all. And I'm wearing a stole given to me by our partner church minister in 2024 when he visited. We begin this service. Where from? A small church in Transylvania. He was the former area bishop, and they have bishops there, but he had stepped down from that role, or his time had expired, I forget which, and he was serving that church and and came over and visited our church. And at the congregation I was serving, some of the congregants had gone there a year or two before I got there. Well, we begin this service by acknowledging that we gather on land stolen from the Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, Erie, Shawnee, Delaware, and Cayuga people, many of whom were forcibly removed from Ohio. We support the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio in their Land Back campaign, and we know that we have to do more as a community to be in solidarity and true relationship with this land and those indigenous to it.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley. I serve as your developmental minister. I'm a medium height woman in her early 60s with silver hair and glasses and wearing a black and white dress. Let us enter into the spirit of worship with these opening words by David Breeden. Welcome to this place where certainty transforms to questions. This place that takes what is and imagines what can be. Welcome to this space where what was fixed begins to shift, where rigidity embraces unfolding as we join in the dance of transformation. Welcome to this moment of change where together we transfigure and transcend together. The service is a little bit unusual today in that instead of preaching a sermon, I'm going to be answering some questions that you have. Some questions were submitted in advance online, but there's a little piece of paper in your order of service where you are welcome to write your question. You have to have it done by the time of the offering. And when you have one done, if you don't have a piece of paper, raise your hand. The ushers can make sure you have one, or a pencil. And when you have a question, please just raise your hand, and Deborah Boyd and Dana are going to come and get your questions from you. I won't be able to answer all of them, and some of them I probably won't answer well, but I will make every attempt to do that. And I'm looking forward. It always helps me to get a sense of what's on your mind, and it actually helps me plan for sermons in the future as well. And one last thing before we do a greeting, we have a number of visitors this morning. If you are willing and you're visiting for the first time, please stand so that we can be sure that we will greet you. You don't have to, but please feel free. Welcome. So let us all rise in body or in spirit. And please turn to your neighbor to introduce yourself.
May this flame, symbol of our transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us.
Thank you, Piper, for helping us light the chalice. We weren't sure there were going to be kids on this holiday weekend, so we appreciate the brave few that are here with us. This is truly one of those stories for all ages because it speaks to the 2-year-old within all of us that constantly asked why. The story today is called Wonder Walkers, written and illustrated by Mika Archer. Wonder walk? Sure. Is the sun the world's light bulb? Is fog the river's blanket? Do mountains have bones? Are forests the mountain's fur? I wonder. Me too. Are trees the sky's legs? Are branches the tree's arms? Are roots the plant's toes? Do caves have mouths? Are shells the shore's necklace? Is the ocean the world's bath? Are rivers the earth's veins? Is the wind the world breathing? Is rain the day's tears? Is the moon the world's nightlight? I wonder. Me too. The end. Approaching things with awe and curiosity lets our imagination soar and can help us to see things in a new light. Today, as we consider both questions and answers, let us remain open to the wonder and mystery in the spaces in between. So let us remain seated with our hands over our hearts as we sing the children back to their families, singing hymn number 395 in your gray hymnal, Sing and Rejoice. Surely. Our Share the Plate recipient for July is the Church on Oakland Park, where they believe in God's economy of abundance and trust that there is more than enough for all of us when we are committed to caring for one another. The Church on Oakland Park hosts a drive-through food pantry from their parking lot every Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m. During the pandemic and as inflation has gone up, the Wednesday food pantry really stepped up, providing food for over 300 families a week, more than they had per month before. Located in South Linden, those who volunteer are a diverse group of people from many races and faith communities, many of whom have also received food from the pantry. Volunteers from First UU are always welcome any Wednesday. Please scan the QR code or text our new number on the screen. It's a different number. Your gifts will now be gratefully received. Ushers, please come forward to receive the offering. Thank you, Nathan. Don't forget to raise your hand if you have a question and you would like somebody to come and pick up your card. There we go. Deborah, there's more. Raise your hand. There you go. Our pastoral care listener this morning is Sharon Hammersley. She's always happy to listen to the concerns that are on your mind. Do you want to stand up, Sharon? Thank you so much for that service that you do. We have some celebrations and concerns in our community to share with you this morning. We are very excited to welcome Lyric Hayes, born on June 30th. Congratulations to the welcoming family, parents Amanda and Jim, and big brother River. I got to meet Lyric the other day, and she's absolutely beautiful. So let's all congratulate Amanda. Congratulations are also due to Lisa Tucker. After searching for 3.5 months, Lisa was offered 2 job positions and is very happy to now be employed at Advanced Wire and Cable as an accounting specialist. We celebrate with her. And First Parish Church in Kingston, Massachusetts, a Unitarian Universalist church that was actually right down the road from where I did my internship in Duxbury, Massachusetts, was last week maliciously vandalized, destroying parts of the historic building that are over 200 years old. And typically, of course, destroying the Black Lives Matter flags and the gay pride flags. So we send our love to our sibling congregation as they repair and restore their beloved building and their spirits. Please join me in the spirit of meditation, a time of contemplation, as I share these words by the Reverend Laura Martin. Yes, of course, organize and vote like the freedom of your body and voice depend on it, but also rally for the wildflowers. Know the feel of what you must say when it leaves your throat. Stay bewildered by not only the terrible, but also by the close-up, frogs in ponds, flowers that return for another summer, the way days lengthen and contract. Serve a person that you don't like much. Serve an ideal that you do. Show up when it matters that you have come. Leave when your intuition tells you that you should. Understand that you will not regret the summer that you stood and heard the music and danced. So may it be.
Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worried about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. I think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say once you're gone forever. Some say that you're gonna come back. Some say you rest in the arms of the Savior if in sinful ways you lack. Some say they're coming back in a garden, bunch of carrots and a little sweet peas. I think I'll just just let the mystery be. Everybody's wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody's worrying about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. Think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say they're going to a place called glory, and I ain't saying it ain't a fact. But I've heard that I'm on the road to purgatory, and I don't like the sound of that. I believe in love, and I live my life accordingly. But I choose to let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worrying about where they're gonna go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. Think I'll just let the mystery be. Think I'll just let the mystery be.
I'm sure there's some good ones here. I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, that got some interesting ones online beforehand. I'm going to take a couple of those and then I'll look at some of these here and then go back and forth between. But quite a number of questions were asked about how we can sustain ourselves in the midst of a world that feels like it's gone mad. So what spiritual and communal practices can help us face a world apparently gone mad? I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, and with all the political strife and climate change issues, it's hard not to think that these are the end times. What is the UU philosophy on this? And what spiritual or communal practices can help us face a world? So I think we're all asking that question right now, right? And if anybody has a really great, fantastic answer, please raise your hand. So it's really difficult. It's really difficult to sustain ourselves. One of the things that I always try to remember is that our brains are hardwired to pay attention to negative things. And that's true because, and I mean, I think it is true, but I think it's because our bodies are constantly scanning the environment for danger, right? It's a genetic impulse that comes naturally to us. So we have to consciously remind ourselves to look for the positive, to reverse that instinctive thing in our brain which says, pay attention to all these horrible things, because there are some really good things that are happening. One is this congregation, I will say. So one of the books that I've been reading lately is by Brian McLaren, who is a liberal religious philosopher and thinker, and he wrote a book called Life After Doom. And I'm actually going to do a class on this fall, because I think that we need to have this kind of thinking, this kind of message ongoing. And so what he talks about is four spiritual practices. One being letting go, letting ourselves descend into the difficult places, to no longer wear blinders, to be willing to face the hard truths, to be willing to go into a difficult place where we see what's really, really happening around us. And when we do that, and of course we have, there is another part that says how we can sustain ourselves during that, but when we do that, we can often find some important insights. So the next section is about letting ourselves be so that the insights can come to us, so that we may see the places where there is wisdom that can be offered, indigenous wisdom, learning to see what's around us, learning to be. And then he talks about letting come, finding the resilience to let something come to us, the imagination, finding small groups that can support, it just takes one or two or three, what is that story that says we just have to keep moving in small directions so that we can hopefully help drive a larger movement, one step at a time. And then setting free, finding a path of agile engagement, being aware that beauty abounds, making our way by walking it, and finding your light and shining it. So I find these all very helpful. And really what we need to do is to, when it gets really too difficult, pull yourself out of that despair and remember the good things, remember the wonderful things that are actually around us, finding ways to have some spiritual practices, whether that's meditating, whether that's walking, whether that's listening to music, all those things that end up soothing our soul and soothing that amygdala, which is that reactive place in our bodies. And I think this community is one of those places that helps support us in what we know will be coming, or what we are afraid will be coming, because together we can do something important. And note that how much this congregation, was an important part of placing on the ballot the question about electing electors, right? So congratulations, we do make a difference in the world. All right, let me switch to another one here. What do I see as the strengths in our congregation? And I think that's one of them. I think knowing that we are in a community of people, while we might not always agree about absolutely everything, we do have a common intent. We do have a common desire to really meet people where they are, to let people be themselves in the fullness of their being, and to then find ways to connect across our differences in a way that can be really mutually supporting. I think the other strength of this congregation is your resilience. You've been through lots of tough times over the last couple years. Sometimes some people are tired of hearing about that, but it's true. You have been through tough times, and here you are. Here you are, really thriving in a way that some of you might not have thought would be possible a few years ago. So congratulations for that resilience. Another question, it won't surprise you that this question comes from Susan Williams. I asked her permission to say this. So Susan asked the same question conversation I've been trying to get going for a while. How does UU theology help us deal with our shame? Our denial of shame is getting tougher to pull off as we confront our own racism or our sadness and grief over the failure for any kind of reconciliation with Reverend Marion, regardless of who blames who. So this is a debate, not a debate, but a conversation that Susan and I have been having ever since I came here. And first of all, I want to say something about my theology. So my theology is what I would call panentheists, which means that I believe in a source of power in the universe that is not external to us, that lives in the world around us and also lives within us, that helps sustain us. And I also embrace the philosophy of Gordon Kaufman, who said that any religion to be powerful needs to have two elements. And one is to make us realize that we are not the world, that we are not God, that we are relative to the larger source of things, so we cannot see our own needs as primary. We need to remember that, and being a part of a community helps us remember that we all need help, that we all need one another, we need other things in the world. So, but the other piece of that is that a religion needs to be able to say, you are worthy of honor and respect no matter who you are. And I think that's one of the unique things that Unitarian Universalism brings into the world, where we can affirm people in the great diversity that we see in this room. So those two things are balanced with each other in my theology. And so to get back to your question, Susan, I think that you are the kind of strong person who can approach the mistakes you've made in your life with resilience. And you've used shame as a way to recognize that. You recognize you've made mistakes, you recognize things that you wanted to do differently. Not everybody is that strong. Not everybody who faces shame can be able to move out of that into a productive place, and so sometimes shame shuts people down. Again, we're all different from one another. So what I would hope is that whether you use shame as motivating factor or whether you recognize that shame is not helping you, what I hope is that we can all go through the world in the way that I was just talking about with our theology, to recognize that we are not perfect, we need help, and sometimes that comes to us by recognizing the mistakes that we have made, and that's important to do. And to realize that we have the ability within ourselves to find and create the community that we need, that we have that worthiness within ourselves. Probably not the answer you were hoping for, Susan, but that's how I approach that. All right, so where do people and children with cognitive and other disabilities fit into UU churches? Are they welcomed? This is a really important question because I think we often see Unitarian Universalism as very heady, as very intellectual. And so if there are people who feel like they can't necessarily join in those intellectual conversations in the same way, then they can feel excluded. But I think we've made real progress in the way in which we understand that there is a great deal of neurodivergence, that we can be welcoming of people regardless of how they process the information around them. We're not perfect at it, but I think it's something that we need to really own and claim as part of our mission, to really do that in a way that is really, truly welcoming. So, let's see. I'm just going to see what else we have here.
Just in case you run out.
Okay,
Coming in.
good. More latecomers. All right. Oh, this is a great one. I've been an atheist for a very long time, yet I find myself wanting a spiritual church community. Am I searching for incompatible things? In the words of my pushy pastor friend, do I want the fruits without the roots? That's a great question, and I think sometimes where this comes down is a matter of language. I think that a number of us are phobic about words like God and prayer for understandable reasons, that those have been used sometimes as hammers to hit people with, or at the least, they're just kind of incomprehensible to some people. And so traditional religion feels like it's embodied by that kind of language that is exclusive or that asks us to believe something that we really don't feel like we can do. But that's different from spirituality. Spirituality comes in many forms and uses many different words and finds ways to connect, because spirituality to me is back to that panentheist mentality, which is that wisdom lies within all of us and between us and among us and within the larger world. And finding ways to connect to that wisdom and support and encouragement is really the purpose of this religious community. Whether you use that same language of traditional religions or not, I tend to sometimes use that language because I find it inspiring to me. I know a lot of people don't, but that doesn't mean that the spiritual impulse comes from some other place or that's completely dependent on traditional religion, because it's not. I think it's an inherent human impulse. And so we try to create an environment where people can experiment with different ways of finding that sense of spirituality, that sense of connection to the whole. There are a number of questions about what is the future of Unitarian Universalism. I would love to have an answer like that, but I talked about this a couple of months ago in terms of what the future is showing, or what the studies are showing us in terms of where people seem to be moving out of traditional religious communities. The numbers are pretty dramatic. Traditional religious communities are hemorrhaging members. And we have been holding our own, but holding our own means there's less than 200,000 of us, which is not exactly, a great sign of growth. And at the same time, I think that we are uniquely poised to meet the needs of younger people who are asking spiritual questions, who don't want the dogma to be attached to it. I think we have the ability to talk about the things that are important to people of all generations, our connection to the earth, our desire for climate justice, our desire for equality. All of those different things are what newer generations, and all of us of any generations, are really trying to look for in the world. So I think we have those important resources. We just don't necessarily help make them known. I know you're important. Somebody's phone. And I think we also have to recognize that we need to diminish some of our really traditional ways of doing things. So trying to find ways to mix up our worship services so that it's not just what we used to call a sermon sandwich between hymns, that it's not all about what I have to offer or what any of the ministers have to offer. So we're going to be experimenting with different things like that, because I think that will be something that will help be a way in which we can be more welcoming of people. And the other thing is, it's not just about what we do here, that we need to be out in the world doing something important to connect with others so that people learn about who we are, what we stand for, and what we believe in. So let's see. Some of these are fairly simple. As a child, what characteristics did you exhibit that might have led you to becoming a UU minister? I think I just talked about them with the children's story. I asked a lot of questions, all the time. All the time. I'm sure I drove my parents crazy. I think my teachers enjoyed it because they loved to have an engagement with somebody who was constantly asking questions, except for when I didn't accept what their answers were. So, and I think for me, growing up in a very conservative part of the country, I grew up in Texas, in the Gulf Coast area of Texas, where most people were either Southern Baptists or Catholics. It helped me so much that I grew up as a Unitarian Universalist and knew that there was an alternative and knew there was a different way of being. And so I think all of those things led me pretty directly into the ministry. 1 year out of college is when I went to div school. So my mother says she should have known when I was 2. That was, yeah. This is an important concrete question. What are the plans and hopes for 2 services in the fall? I thought we had talked about this, but we probably haven't as much as we should. We are going back to 2 services in the fall, 9:15 and 11. You'd think I would remember that. But the 9:15 service is not going to be a replica of the 11 o'clock service. It's going to be another experiment like I was just talking about. So Christine has been experimenting with something called Nourish, with 2 U's, which is a very interactive, very child-friendly service that I think engagement is a better way of putting it. That is not so much about listening to a sermon. It's about bringing your own questions and your own wisdom into the room. So I think that's a wonderful way for us to experiment with different things. That will be the 9:15 service. It will be very, very, very family friendly. If you are interested in helping with that, please let Christine know. Please, Christine Davidson, sorry, because we don't want her to have to do this every Sunday. But that will be the service that is being conducted next week, so you can have a chance to experience what that will be like. So I think I'm excited about what that's going to be, and I'm really glad that I don't have to get here at 9:15. So there are a couple questions about Reverend Marion, the former minister, and I don't want to go too far into detail about this because I know you've heard a lot about it already, but for some people who don't necessarily know, Reverend Marion Stewart was charged with bullying staff by actually 3 different staff people. And so she was put on probation by our credentialing body, the Unitarian Universalist Ministerial Fellowship Committee, and the expectations for that time of probation or that she would try to find a way to make some sort of restitution, to try to find some way to recognize what she had done wrong and maybe change her behaviors and engage with people in a reconciling sort of way, which did not happen to the extent that the MFC thought was appropriate. And so the board negotiated with her that she retire. And then as things went on, she continued to violate her probation. She continued to try to reach out to staff people, to members of the church, which was explicitly forgiven as part of her probationary time. And so the MFC removed her fellowship, which means that she can no longer call herself a Unitarian Universalist minister. She can call herself Reverend because we can't revoke ordination. But she's no longer a Unitarian Universalist minister, and that word will go out to the whole list of UU religious leaders and congregations, which is really sad. It's really, really sad, and I think particularly sad for those of you who felt close to her. And it's hard to see that happen in that way. We all desire to have a chance to reconcile, and that just seemed impossible under these circumstances. So that's what the purpose of the Fellowship Committee is, to help us recognize when a minister has done things so damaging that the relationship can't be reconciled. They also help recognize great ministers who are coming through. So they do some important work. But it was a difficult time, and I know it brings up a lot of difficult feelings for some people during this time. And one of the important pieces of this, the questioner asked, can we still contact her? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. We can't make you not do that. But it won't help necessarily for you to do any outreach to her, because she has been asked not to respond to anything that comes from this congregation. So, and one aspect of that question is that different from other religious groups. I think we are better, actually, than most religious groups at recognizing when ministers have fallen. A lot of churches are still not doing that. A lot of denominations are still not doing that, as well as I think we have, and we still have improvements to make. And it takes too long. And there are flaws in the system, as always, but I think that we as Unitarian Universalists confront those things in a way that is better than a lot of others. Let's see. What is a favorite program or service that started at another church that you think would be beneficial to start at first? You know, one of the things we did in Arlington, Virginia church that I just loved, who also experienced an abusive minister, is we did big intergenerational dances with a DJ, and I have fantastic videos of watching 2-year-olds dancing with 80-year-olds. And it was so healing. It was amazing. And we do have activities, and we've had the ball, and we've had different things, but I think people see those as things that are over there with religious education or something like that. But we all could engage in that in a way that would be, I think, really revitalizing for us. So I think that's all I have time for. Let's see. Oh, thanks for letting our congregation know about your book, Transforming Conflict. If you were to try to write another book this summer, what would it be? I don't have time. I call that the book that COVID gave me. Because of COVID, I had nothing else to do during the summer except write that book, and I'm the kind of person that has to really deal with something. But I have actually been starting a book around how we all recognize that none of us are in perfect health, that none of us will, all of us will experience difficulties with our health, and the way in which we understand health and sickness to be opposites is damaging to our psyches. And so that's one that I've been stewing about and hope that I can get off the ground. So thank you for your questions. Continue to send them to me because they really help me think about what's on your mind and what I can address in future services. So let us now join in our final hymn, number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
From the late Reverend Gordon McKeeman. How does one address a mystery? Cautiously, reverently, hopefully, quietly. Simply be the intimate presence of mystery, unashamed, unadorned, unafraid. And to that end, say Amen. Now we will extinguish our chalice together with the words printed on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.